Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the final episode of the Cotton Companion podcast for 2020. Today, we're going to simplify things a bit and look back at some of the big news events impacting cotton this year. I'm Jim Steadman, Senior Editor of Cotton Grower, and as always, I'm joined by Cotton Grower Editor Frank Giles. Frank, are you ready for a breather here at the end of the year?
I sure am, Jim. And this time of year, I think we say this every week, is some of the busiest time of the year for us in the magazine world. So it's always nice to take a break during Christmas and New Year's to be with family and friends. But I think in our world, it's especially nice because we get to take a little breather from all that's going on in work.
Absolutely. Well, and it's probably time to give our loyal listeners a little bit of a breather too after our last two podcasts. You know, we covered a lot of topics and we hope everybody enjoyed the conversation as much as we did. But to be honest, we know they probably ran just a little bit too long. So we're going to try to make up for that today with this, our 86th episode. There's no special guests. It's just me and Frank as we bid goodbye to 2020, which coincidentally is also the theme of our December issue, which should be in your hands right now. But before we go any further, let's take a moment for a short message from our sponsor, Phytogen.
Phytogen is pleased to sponsor the Cotton Companion, bringing you the latest news to help you thrive all season long.
Thanks as always to the folks at Phytogen for supporting the Cotton Companion. And now, once again, we're going to turn things over to our colleague, Robin Sittberg, for a custom content interview with Dr. Ken Leger, Phytogen Cotton Development Specialist in West Texas and Oklahoma.
Hello, I'm Robin Sittberg of Meister Media Worldwide, publisher of Cotton Grower Magazine. I'm here today again with Dr. Ken Leger, Phytogen Cotton Development Specialist, who covers parts of West Texas and Southwest Oklahoma. Welcome back to the program, Ken.
Glad to be here.
In the last episode, we talked about how Phytogen cottonseed offers protection against seasonal challenges that growers might face. In this interview, I wanted to ask you about some Phytogen W3FE varieties that would be excellent for Southwest growers in your area for spring of 2021.
Yeah, you bet. We'll start off with Phytogen 210 W3FE. It's our earliest maturing variety, so it goes all the way into Kansas, but certainly as far south as Plainview in the Texas Panhandle. It offers some excellent vert wilt tolerance as well as stable micronair for those environments to the far north. Next is Phytogen 350 W3FE, probably our most stable performer and most widely adapted variety across the Southwest. Does well on the cap, off the cap, into Oklahoma, all soil types, offers excellent vert wilt tolerance as well as root knot nematode protection, and really stable yields across that environment. Next is a variety called Phytogen 394 W3FE. Really belongs on the high plains, say from about Plainview down to Lamesa, and really offers, number one, high yield, number two, very long staple, and number three, our best vert wilt package that we have thus far in our varieties. In addition, it also offers some storm tolerance that's second to none, especially after coming off this ice storm that we had in October of 2020. That's top mind on a lot of growers' minds. Then finally, Phytogen 480 W3FE. If you're below Lubbock or if you're off the cap, this is a real winner. Very good yields, very widely adapted across soil types and irrigation scenarios, offers some great root knot nematode resistance, and has performed very well. All these varieties, and really all of our varieties, are bacterial blight resistant. So there's another issue that you don't have to worry about with Phytogen.
Well, there's certainly a broad range of choices. How do growers go about finding out which varieties will actually work in their particular situations?
Well, certainly they can contact their local territory manager or their local cotton development specialist like myself, or you can simply go to phytogen.com, and there's all sorts of resources and information on that website.
All right, well, we're about out of time, but I want to thank you again for being on the program, Ken, and growers can always go to phytogen.com for more information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, Robin, and thank you, Ken, for joining us for that interview segment. It's been a busy couple of weeks in terms of year-end cotton news. Frank, can you fill us in on what's been happening?
Thanks, Jim. It's that time of year when the seed companies start sharing news about their new varieties for the new season. We've already had announcements about 2021 plans from two of those companies. Phytogen kicked off things on December 8 with the announcement of 3 new high-performing, high-yielding upland varieties for 2021. 2 that include the exclusive trait for reniform nematode resistance. 3 days later, on December 11th, Delta Pine rolled out 5 new Bollgard 3 Extend Flex varieties as its class of 21 during the company's NPE Summit, which was held virtually for the first time this year due to COVID. 2 nematode-resistant B3XL varieties, 1 for the southern U.S. and 1 for the Mid-South and Texas, feature resistance to both reniform and root knot nematodes. You can learn more about these new varieties at cottongrower.com.
And last but not least, a quick call out and congratulations to Matt Foster, who is the new LSU Ag Center statewide specialist for cotton, corn, and grain sorghum. He starts his new role on January 19th.
Thanks, Frank. And with that, we're going to take just a few minutes to provide our opinions on some of the top stories that impacted U.S. cotton in 2020. In true talk radio tradition, Frank and I both put together a list of our top 5 stories, which we will compare and discuss. We have not shared these with each other, and I trust we're not going to get too controversial. So, Frank, you ready to go?
Yeah.
All right. Give me your number 5 story.
I'm going to say, and this is more for me, I'm coming back into cotton after more than a decade. January will be a year back in the cotton fold as editor of Cotton Grower magazine. And I was editor in the early 2000s to mid 2000s. So it's been a while. So I'm going to say cotton contamination is for me.
Okay.
Just simply because, when I was here prior, the cleanliness, for lack of a better term, of U.S. cotton was a big selling point. But in that time, the round bell system has become almost universal. And with that comes a little bit of plastic. But the good news is it looks like there's a lot of research and some technology that's going to help growers address that issue and get ahead of that problem in the future.
Well, my number 5 story concerns a couple business announcements that hit the industry. Starting in late June, when Winfield United announced that it was moving its proprietary cropland cottonseed business over to its Armor Seed Company brand. That's basically allowing the company to consolidate its southern seed business under one well-known regional name. And I suspect the word on the street on that move has been pretty positive. Then it came up in September, followed in September by the announcement of a new joint venture between Alabama Farmers Co-op, Tennessee Farmers Co-op, and Winfield United again to form Greenpoint Ag. This company immediately became a top 7 wholesale and retail agronomy company with over $1 billion in sales, 99 retail and wholesale agronomy locations across 10 Cotton Belt states. So in terms of the business side of cotton, those were two pretty decent sized events this year.
Next up for me is the Cotton U.S. Trust Protocol. Coming into the industry again, that really jumped out at me as this pretty innovative program to communicate the good story of cotton and the renewable fiber that it is compared to our synthetic cousins. And I guess they wouldn't even really be cousins. That wouldn't be the right way to describe it. I also have been editor in the specialty crop sector for more than a decade now. And, a lot of the vegetable and fruit growers and industry have sustainability programs, but really not as organized as what it looks like cotton is trying to put together there. So I find that to really be an interesting program and anxious to see where that goes. I know this 2021 is going to be a big push to get growers to enroll, and we'll see what the new year brings.
That's good. I do have U.S. Cotton Trust Protocol on my list, but we'll get to that in just a couple of minutes. I'm a little higher up my list. Number 4 on my list, quite honestly, is weather. We just had it seemed like an endless stream of hurricanes across the Southeast, the Mid-South, and South Texas between July and October. let's see if I can remember the names. We had Hannah. We had your favorite. Was it Iseus?
It's Iseus. Yeah, Iseus.
Iseus. Okay. Yeah. It's pronounced differently than it's spelled. Everybody else has had a four letter name for it. We had Laura, we had Sally,
Yep.
And then we ran out of I guess out of names and started. Then we had Beta, we had Delta, and we had Zeta. So that was more than enough storms and more than enough rains and enough of them following the same pattern too. It almost got horribly monotonous. And then also we had some extreme drought conditions in parts of the Southeast and certainly out in West Texas that left a lot of acres pretty much abandoned and useless out there for this year. So my number 4 story was weather. What you got for number 3?
Number 3, I was coming in with China for me. And again, that's not a new story by any measure, but again, we have seen how big a role they play in moving the market. These new trade restrictions surrounding child labor certainly are raising some eyebrows and could cause some potential disruptions. But right now, China's buying a lot of cotton, and that's moving the market a little bit. So, as always, that presents some challenges for the market to be so dependent on one country, and a country that sometimes has some issues. So China still plays a big part here.
Absolutely. China is certainly not going to go away when we get to 2021. It will always be there. My number 3 story was something you've already touched on, U.S. Cotton Trust Protocol. The best part about that, and we're not going to rehash all of this, they were able to move from their pilot stage to this full-on membership drive in 2020. And it's been very interesting watching the numbers of growers, and not just that, but companies and cotton mills that have already signed up for the membership roster. They had a pretty extensive training sessions and programs for all parts of the cotton belt here over the last couple months. I suspect attendance was pretty good at those. And they've already joined in some collaborations with several other complementary global programs for sustainability. So it's been a big year for the Trust Protocol, and my impression is it's really just getting started at this point.
Yeah, it seems really interesting to me. For the retail brands, the fashion brands, that message just seems like it should resonate well, and to have a unified front coming at that with that unified message, I think is really interesting, and it'll be interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah, it was. I think at one point before the protocol was really officially put in place, I could count at least 5 different sustainability programs that were all trying to do basically the same thing. So this one seems to have some traction in terms of actually delivering what the markets are looking for. So kudos to the folks behind the protocol, the folks who are running it on a day-to-day basis. It's going to be a good thing for the industry. There's no question about that. What you got for number 2, Frank?
I have a feeling some of this, we may have some similar items here coming up.
We may.
Number 2, I would have to say the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals vacating of the 3 dicamba herbicides right in the middle of the weed control season. Resistant pigweed, as we all know, is the beast that rules the roost in the cotton weed world, and not having those herbicides could have been a disaster in some areas, certainly. And luckily, the EPA allowed growers to use their existing stocks, and by and large, I think it averted disaster. I'm sure there were some weeds to be pulled this season, as there is every season, but that was all blowing up fresh on my return to cotton. So it certainly made things interesting for me, and I know everybody else in the cotton industry.
Well, and I have that as my number 2 story also. And, I think it's interesting, not only from the perspective of, the timing on it. It almost seemed like I remember when the story first broke in early June, and it didn't seem like there was certainly no big splash about it. It's sort of like it kind of snuck onto the news radar. And I guess in reality, then after you talk to people in the industry, it's like it snuck up on everybody. I think I recall in our last podcast when we were talking with Stanley Culpepper, and he was saying if EPA hadn't been able to step in and provide use of existing stocks, that, I think the word he was using for Georgia was a catastrophe at that point. So yeah, that was certainly a huge news item. And I think then you could also tie in the subsequent re-registration of these products that happened in October, obviously with some new restrictions, but at least there's something there. Now you got these products for 5 years. There are some things that growers are going to have to learn to work with again to use these products. The training will be there again this winter, and certainly I think everybody's breathing a sigh of relief that these products are ready and available for them to start planning their weed control programs for 2021.
One personal anecdote when it comes to pigweed I'll add to that conversation is I live in Florida, and I drive home up to Georgia for Thanksgiving and Christmas every year. And my home is in Dooley County, Georgia, right there in the middle of cotton. And I would, around 2006, 2007, on that drive home on Thanksgiving up Interstate 75, I began noticing the pigweed in the cotton fields. And I was like, what in the world is going on? And that was as that resistant pigweed population was beginning to blow up there. And that trip every year up I-75, I would notice those pigweeds. But then some years back, I began to notice that those same fields were less and less pigweed every year on that drive. And I was like, well, the growers obviously are getting control of this problem. And of course, the dicamba program and good pre-emerge program has helped them get a control of it. It would have been a real shame had they lost those tools and, that seed bank get built back up again in one season, really diminishing all that hard work that took years for them to get under control.
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, again, when you talk to any of the weed scientists, they'll tell you if we don't keep if we don't keep these programs going the way we've got them moving at this point with residuals and, the right product at the right time in the right place. And it wouldn't take any more than 1 year to blow those seed banks right back up again. So, again, it's good to have all the products back in the arsenal, all the tools in the tool belt, as they say, and ready to go for next year. All right. Number one, Frank.
Number one, I think that's a pretty obvious choice this year. The year of the coronavirus, COVID-19. It impacted everyone. You, me, Tyler here, our producer that's recording. It has been quite a year. Cotton growers kept things moving. The generators kept things moving, and from what I understand, largely averted any large outbreaks. Cotton growing for some is a fairly solitary family type operation, so that helped in some regards. It certainly tops my list as maybe one of the top stories of my lifetime for sure.
Well, I'm right there with you on that COVID-19 was top my list as well, because to be honest with you, I can't think of any other single thing that has impacted all aspects of our industry and our lives than this has this year. When you think about it, just look at it from a cotton grower's perspective. It has impacted our markets. It's impacted demand. Which leads to impacting prices. It has impacted how we conducted business. Not only from our personal perspective, working from homes and dealing with a lot of things on Zoom and Skype. And man, I wish I'd bought some stock in Zoom back early last year before all this took off. But as a side note there, but it's changed everything. In terms of how growers have dealt with their retailers and what retailers have had to do to adjust for this. It has impacted farm economics in ways that we may not even be aware of yet. And again, certainly it's, what it's done to the overall health, not just physical health, but I think in some cases, even the mental health, folks, not only in our industry, but everywhere. So it's a great big umbrella with a lot of stuff under it this year. Hopefully, it's looking better now. The vaccines are coming out onto the market. Let's get the people who are on the front lines, get their vaccinations first, and then let's all line up and do what we need to do to get ourselves protected and over this.
Yeah, and I would just add that as bad as it has been and continues, we are pretty amazing, resilient people, and to be standing as well as we are standing through all this is a testament to the country and the world, really, for that matter. But I think these vaccines promise good things, and again, we've learned so much about. There's different ways of doing business, and we've adapted to those ways. And once this is all behind us, I think a lot of the stuff that we've learned will continue to be a part of our daily lives and practices.
Yes, I think so too, that, some of this stuff is just not going to go away. We've discovered ways to become more efficient and to get things done without having to, to climb in a car, climb in a truck and drive somewhere to get it done. And certainly when it comes to meetings as well. Although you ask any grower and ask you and me and other people in our industry, man, we kind of miss going to meetings a little bit at this point, but hopefully we'll get that squared away and we'll all be able to gather in a cotton field somewhere this summer.
A year ago, or a year and a half ago, I probably would have said, man, I don't know if I agree with that about going to meetings, but I'm missing them now. So I'm ready to get back. I dare say get back on an airplane and go somewhere.
Now that's the one thing I'm not missing is getting back on airplanes. So, we'll adjust as we need to, but I'm not in any hurry to get back to an airport at this point until it's absolutely necessary. But anyway, I guess that's it. That's kind of our unvarnished thoughts on what made 2020. Well, 2020. I guess, Frank, it's time we just kind of wipe the slate clean and be ready to start over here January 1.
Yep, absolutely. It's been a fun year working with you and getting back in the cotton fold and working with cotton growers and related industry stakeholders. As challenging as 2020 has been, that has been a bright spot for me.
I'm actually surprised you didn't have one of your top stories in terms of challenges actually doing this podcast.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I still find it interesting that you have two guys who are trained as journalists, print journalists, and writers sitting in front of microphones twice a month to put something like this together. But it's actually become very enjoyable, and particularly when again, a big thanks to all of our guests for this year who have joined us to share their messages and explain things to us and everything. We've had some good programs and we've had some good discussions, and we look forward to bringing more to you next year.
Yeah, and there's a very good reason this is a podcast, not a video presentation. I won't say what that is exactly, but I think you might have the idea.
We're both made for radio.
Once again, that wraps up this episode of the Cotton Companion podcast. Thank you, dear listeners, for joining us. If you like what you hear on the Cotton Companion, please be sure to spread the word and tell your farmer friends about this podcast. Here's how you do it.
You can find the Cotton Companion in 3 easy ways. First, go to cottongrower.com/companion, or simply click the podcast tab at the top of the homepage. Second, subscribe to our channel on iTunes or wherever you find your podcasts these days. And 3, sign up for our weekly e-newsletter, the Cotton Grower e-News, that's delivered to your email inbox every Tuesday morning. You can do that by going to cottongrower.com/subscribe. Also, be sure to follow Cotton Grower on social media. We are at Cotton Grower Mag on Twitter. And on Facebook, you'll find us by searching for Cotton Grower Magazine.
Well, the January issue of Cotton Grower is on press right now and should be hitting your mailboxes around the second week of the new year. And it includes the results of our annual acreage survey and the announcement of our 2020 Cotton Grower Cotton Achievement Award recipient. And we'll have plenty to say about both of these topics when the Cotton Companion returns in January. This podcast is produced by Tyler Hatch and Kim Henderson, our talented colleagues back at the world headquarters for Meister Media Worldwide in lovely and snowy Willoughby, Ohio. My name's Jim Steadman. His name's Frank Giles, and we'll be back with you again in early January to kick off a new year of the Cotton Companion. Until then, we wish all of you a safe and joyful holiday season, and be sure to give 2020 a good kick on its way out the door.
Yeah, he works and he works and he works and he works all day. God made a farmer. Yeah, he works and he works and he works and
Phytogen thanks you for listening to this edition of the Cotton Companion. To learn how you can thrive with Phytogen, go to phytogen.com.